Hey, welcome back to the Amplified Podcast. We're glad to have you with us. Today we're going through the story of Exodus. And so Exodus is the second book of the Bible. And that's why you see on Spotify it says season 2, because this is our second book we're moving through. And today we're going to be talking about Exodus 19 and Exodus 20. So Exodus 19 is God starting to commune with Moses on the mountain, and he's starting to see some more glorious things about the Lord. But Exodus 20 is the all-important 10 Commandments. And so we're going to go through the 10 Commandments today, and we're glad to have you with us. So if you could open up your Bibles to Exodus 19. The format for this podcast will change slightly after this episode. So what we're doing for this podcast, what we're talking about, all of it stays exactly the same. You're just going to see a different background behind me, because we will be in California instead of Oklahoma. And so we are, if you're watching this, we've already moved. In the very next podcast, you'll see hopefully a church in the background. And it's going to be really great. And we're very excited. And so if you live in the Lake Tahoe area and you're watching this, we were glad to have you with us, and we'd love to have you join us for church. And so we're at the church called South Shore Christian Assembly. It's 886 Glorine Avenue in South Lake Tahoe. And so it's going to be a cool adventure. But if you could open up your Bibles to Exodus 19, your Amplified Bible, or you could open up your Alabaster Bible. These are really great, especially for trips just like this, where you just want to take one book. And you can do all kinds of things. And so this is a collection of the letters. This is a hardback that was given to me. And so we're really glad to have Alabaster Bibles here at the house. And so let's start going through Exodus 19. Okay, verse 1 says this. Okay, hold on. Let me give a little context. And so basically up to now, they've been in the Sinai desert. And so if you're looking at kind of a map of the Middle East just south of Israel, you can see the people were living in Goshen when they were in Egypt, but then they moved out and south toward the Sinai Peninsula and the Sinai Mountains. And so all this right here is wilderness. That's why nobody really lives there. But the Amalekites still attacked them, and they still had an interesting go of it. And so the Lord has provided water for them. The Lord has provided food for them, yet they're still complaining against God. Even though he's guiding them by day and night with a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud, they still seem to forget that God is watching over them. And so that's where they're at right now. And they're in the Sinai Peninsula. And it says this: on the third month after the children of Egypt had left the land of Egypt, children of Israel had left the land of Egypt, the very same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So again, that's near the Red Sea. When they moved out of the Rephidim, they came into the wilderness of Sinai, and they camped there. Israel camped at the base of the mountain of Sinai. Moses went up to God on the mountain, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, "Say this to the house of Jacob and tell the Israelites." God, it's the same thing. House of Jacob and Israelites is the same thing. "You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will in fact obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own special possession and treasure from among all the peoples of the world, for all the earth is mine." So the high God of the universe is saying, if you guys, who I brought out of Egypt, will do what I say and actually follow my commands, then out of everybody in this world, you get to be my people, and I'll pour my love on you. And so this has been a little challenging for them already, because we've kept account already in 5 different occasions. We've seen them grumble and complain against Moses. And so God is merciful. He's patient. And now he's telling the people, if you'll listen to me, then we're going to have a good time. "And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation set apart for my purpose. These are the words that you shall speak to the Israelites." So Moses called for the elders of the people and told them all these words which the Lord commanded him. So this is probably the leaders of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens that we talked about in the last episode. "The Lord said to Moses, behold, I will come to you." Verse 8, all the people answered together and said, "We will do everything that the Lord has spoken." And Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord, as if God couldn't hear him, but he still did. The Lord said to Moses, behold, I will come to you in a thick cloud so that the people may hear when I speak with you and may believe and trust in you forever. And so already we've had times where the people have already kind of questioned whether or not Moses is really the leader that they should be following. When they don't get fed at the right time, when they don't get water when they want to, when it's too hot or it's too cold or they have to walk too far, they complain against Moses and they start to grumble and say, is God really even with us? Even though they could see a pillar of cloud, a pillar of fire right in front of them. And they're saying, should Moses really be our guy? And so God is saying, I'm going to come down on this mountaintop into a thick cloud near the top where they can't see what's above, and you're going to walk on up to the top of the mountain and you're going to spend time with me. And when you come down, the people will know for sure that you are my chosen instrument. And so that's how it works. The Lord said to Moses, behold, I'll come to you in a thick cloud. Okay, verse 10. The Lord also said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, that is, prepare them for my sacred purpose and have them wash their clothes. So it's likely that they've been living as slaves for a long time. I have no idea what the level of hygiene is, but God wants to wash away all the dirtiness, wash away all the, the filth of Egypt off of them before he, betroths himself to him. It's kind of like, you get really dressed up, you get really looking good on the day you get married. This is the same idea that when the people are meeting God now, it's God consecrating himself to them as well. Be ready on the third day, because on the third day, the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the cloud in sight of all the people. 3 days is pretty significant, pretty much throughout the entire Bible. A lot of stuff happens on the third day, including the resurrection of Jesus. It says this, you shall set barriers all around the mountain, saying, beware that you do not go up on the mountain or touch its border. Whoever touches the mountain must be put to death. Now, we actually don't have any record of, there's going to be a lot of times where a very small rule is given, like don't even collect wood on the Sabbath, because if you do, the punishment is death. Janice Prager would tell us that we actually have no record of anyone ever being put to death for something this small, except for murder. But the idea is to enforce, this is how serious this is. We don't have record of anyone actually being killed because of this, but this is God saying, hey, I want you to take my presence this serious. Don't even come up or touch the mountain. No hand shall touch him. That is, no one shall try to save the guilty party, but the offender must be stoned or shot through with arrows, whether man or animal that touches the mountain, he shall not live. When the ram's horn sound a long blast, that shall come up the mountain. So God's saying, you eventually will come up the mountain, but, not yet. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified them for God's purpose, and they washed their clothes. He said to the people, be prepared for the third day and do not be intimate with a woman. So, keep it clean for the next few days. So it happened on the third day when it was morning that there were thunder and flashes of lightning, and a very thick cloud was on the mountain, and a very loud blast was sounded from a ram's horn, so that all the people in the camp trembled. So they're really getting to see the fear of the Lord in this case. And so we always think about God, at least in the New Testament area, as being the sweet Jesus, and he is that, but he's also he dwells in thick darkness, and he is that which is completely light and completely good. And he makes the clouds his carriages, and this is the God of all gods. And so that's what we're getting to see in this story. Then Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood and presented themselves at the foot of the mountain. The Lord visits Sinai, verse 18. Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. So this is how, when we talk about where is Sinai today? There is a monastery on a mountain called Sinai, but we don't really think that's the real Sinai. The real one on its mountaintop, on the top of it, has burned and blackened rocks from this exact experience, from the fire of the Lord descending on the mountain. And it happened as the blast of a ram's horn grew louder and louder. Moses spoke, and God answered him with a loud thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses up to the mountain, and he went up. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Go down, warn the people so that they do not break the barriers around the mountain to the Lord to see me, and many of them perish as a result." So, they're probably a little bit familiar with a lot of ritualistic things from Egypt, and maybe in a lot of this they had to participate, but God's saying, no, this is going to be much different. My glory is too much for you, so stay back for the moment. Also, have the priests who approach the Lord consecrate and sanctify themselves for my sacred purpose, or else the Lord will break forth in judgment against them and destroy them. So he's telling you, consecrate the people, set yourselves apart, get yourselves cleaned up for a few days. But specifically for the priests, if you guys break this, I myself will come down and a word is smite, but really I'll take your life, because the purity of God is so awesome and so violently against anything that is filthy or wrong that it has no choice but to consume it. And so I think that's the idea here, that God is so brilliant and so full of light and so perfect that anything that is imperfect that comes close to him is just going to be burned up. Verse 23, Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up to the Mount Sinai because you warned us, saying, set barriers around the mountain and consecrate it." Then the Lord said to him, "Go down and come up again, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people come up to the break through the barriers and come up to the Lord, or he will break forth in judgment against them and destroy them." And so God is extending a specific grace to Moses over and over. He now is extending that same grace to the priests, where the priests are going to be, or Aaron is going to be allowed to come up, but the priests do not even get to come up yet. So Moses went down to the people and told them again about God's warning. And so this is the beginning of, the laws that God is going to pass down. It's this whole idea, and I explained it to my youth group, that, if you were an orphan and suddenly you were adopted, you'd been living kind of however you wanted to for a long, long time, but now you live in this wonderful house. The parents would sit you down on the first few days and say, "Hey, we love you. We care about you. You're a part of this family now. But if you're going to live in this house, here are some rules that we're going to have to follow." And God's the same way. He's saying, "I'm bringing you and I'm taking you to myself, and I'm making you my people. But if you're going to be my people, you have to leave the filthiness of Egypt behind, the filthiness of your old life behind." So this is the very beginning of that. And the easiest way God's going to extend that knowledge is through the 10 commandments. So Moses is heading up and down the mountain, and God is going to give him the 10 commandments, and we're going to list them out here. Okay, Exodus 20. Then God spoke all these words: "I am the Lord your God, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me." So that's number one. That's law number one. No other gods. So they're very familiar with all the other gods, but obviously Yahweh rendered them completely incapacitated and in some cases, I think, dead in the wake of the Egyptian plagues. And so God's saying, "I'm going to be your only God. You are going to be a monotheistic, a one God people from here on out." Because all the other gods, whatever, we like to think about them then or now in modern day, all of them are false gods that are going to lead you away from the salvation that is in Jesus. And so God is saying, "I'm the only God, and you are not going to have any other gods." And it's also like a marriage where he's saying, "I'm your only spouse. You're not going to have any other spouses." And he's very jealous in this case, and it's a good form of jealousy. Second one is this: "You shall not make for yourself any idol or any likeness, form, manifestation of what is in heaven above or on earth or beneath, or what is in the water under the earth, as an object to worship." And so this is the idea that you should not make any idols. Now, in the United States, having idols is not as popular, but when you go to India, I mean, everybody and their dogs walking around with little idols, and there's idol shops all over the place, and they legitimately worship these things, but they're false idols. The Bible tells us that they have eyes but cannot see, they have ears but cannot hear, they have hands but cannot feel. But the Lord has eyes and he sees. He has ears and pays attention. He listens and he speaks. It's the difference between lifelessness and life itself. And so no idols. And so this is also where you can get into, people extend this, and it's not necessarily bad, but they extend it into what's called iconography. Iconography just means we're not going to make even any image that we think Jesus or God looks like. And so Muslims do this with Muhammad, where if you see any paintings, you don't see his face because they consider it iconography. We're not going to make any lesser image of the person that we worship. This is the reason why Vodi Bakum, rest in peace, he didn't watch The Chosen because he saw it as iconography. Now, do I think anyone is bowing down to Jonathan Rumi? Absolutely not. But it's the idea that we're not going to make any person or any image out to be what God is meant to be. And so I think that you can extend it a little bit too far, but we shouldn't have any idols either way. Number 3, you shall not worship them, or this is the same idea. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am jealous God, impassioned, demanding what is rightfully and uniquely mine, visiting the iniquity, the sin, and the guilt of fathers on the children, that is, the children to account for the sins of their fathers to the 3rd and 4th generations who hate me. So this is the idea that if you sin, the consequences of those sin doesn't just fall to you. It could even go to 3 and 4 generations beyond you. And we obviously don't want that. And so this could be more spiritual, where you could take this a couple different ways. It could be more spiritual, that God is remembering those sins. It could also be like, if you fall into alcoholism, it's not just you that bears the weight of that. It's your kids and your grandkids and maybe even their grandkids, where it can become just this curse on your life. But it also could be interpreted a different way to say that, if you've struggled with something, if you fall into sin, God mercifully remembers that even to the 3rd and 4th generation when your family members make mistakes. And so God is not, he's not aloof to the problems that we have as people. So I'm going to make this a little small. 1, no other gods. If I don't make it smaller, I won't fit all of them on this page. 2 is no idols. Verse 6 is great, though. It says, but showing graciousness and steadfast loving kindness to thousands of generations who love me and keep my commandments. So if you even have one person in your family that loves Jesus, the blessings that God will pour out upon you and your family are never ending. That you could be living in the blessings right now of someone 30 generations ago in your family, 1,000 years ago, who loved Jesus. Okay. Number 3, you shall not take the name of the Lord of God in vain. Vain. Name. Just gonna put no vain name. You can't use God's name in vain. That is irreverently and false affirmations in ways to impugn the character of God. For the Lord will not hold guiltless or leave unpunished the one who takes his name in vain, disregarding its reverence and power. So this is more than just, we don't say, oh my God, or we don't say Jesus Christ every time something bad happens. This is the idea that you as a Christian, you as someone who loves the Lord, you as someone who, if other people talked about you, they'd say that person represents Jesus, that person represents God. If you behave in such a way that you bring dishonor to yourself, you're actually also bringing dishonor to God's name, because it's like, you bear my name. I used to tell my youth kids, like, Carnetts, that's my last name. Carnetts don't do this specific thing. We don't do this. And the idea is the same with the Lord, where if you're going to live for the Lord, there are things that we just don't do. There are sins. We do not commit sins. We do our very best. And so you bear God's name. It's like what do you call it? Somebody that goes to a different country, an ambassador. When you act out in another country, when you do something wrong, you not only profane yourself and make yourself look bad, you're actually making the United States look bad. And so it's the same idea. Remember the Sabbath day, the seventh day, and keep it holy, set apart and dedicated to God. So number 4 is the Sabbath. And number 5, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day, that is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On that day you shall not do any work, you or your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, or your livestock, or the temporary resident or foreigner that stays within your city gate. So everybody gets a day off. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in them, and he rested on the seventh day. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. That is just, set it apart for his purpose. Number 5, honor and respect, obey, care for your father and mother so that your days may be prolonged in the land the Lord God gives you. And so number 5 is honor your parents. And this is the only one that actually comes with a promise that if you honor your parents, you'll have a longer life. And we want to live longer. We want to see more things. We want to see more of our family members. But we all have classic examples in our minds of people that got super rebellious in high school and ended up in places they shouldn't have been. They didn't listen to their parents. They didn't listen to their wisdom. And they ended up in jail or rehab programs, or they ended up in, halfway houses. And you can get out of those things and you can improve your life. But had you just honored your parents from the beginning, had you honored the Lord from the beginning, you could have extended your life. And so it's very applicable for us even today. And what's great is Dennis Prager would say all 5 of these rest on the 5th one. Because if you honor your parents, then you will take the Sabbath seriously. You will take your name seriously. You won't have any other idols. You won't have any other gods. And so these 5 rest on the 5th one. So if you can honor your parents, then that is also honoring usually the other 4, if your parents, of course, are believers. Okay, number 6. You shall not commit murder, unjustified, deliberate homicide. Okay, 6 is no murder. Now, again, this is different from just killing. The Israelites are going to be sent into a lot of situations where they have to kill the people that are there. They've seared their own consciousness. Their wickedness has gone too far. This is different from being sent off to war. If the United States ever goes to war again, God forbid, and you're sent off and you have to do things, this is different. This is talking specifically about homicide. This is killing without good reason. We're not even talking about self-defense here. We're talking about someone attacks you unprovoked, or you attack someone unprovoked and kill them. That's what God's talking about here, because life is precious regardless. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Adultery being cheating on your spouse. But Jesus extends this even further, saying if you have had lust in your heart toward a person outside your marriage, you've already committed adultery in your heart. And so Jesus is more hardcore than even these. And these have been discussed a million times, and you can split hairs on them. But the idea is be faithful to who God has given you. Okay, number 8, you shall not steal secretly, openly, fraudulently, or through carelessness. So, no theft. God takes the theft of one thing to another very seriously, and it's the theft of his people in Israel that God took seriously. It was the theft of his land over and over that God took seriously. What belongs to you belongs to you, which is another reason why we should hate the idea of communism so much, because it's the idea that you don't get to own anything, that the state owns everything. It's the idea that whatever you make immediately is taken from you and given to someone who didn't make as much or didn't try or has not put in the work and effort. It's wealth redistribution is just a fancy word for theft. It truly is. And so it has been proven time and time again in the last 100 years when 100 million people died because of it. And so God takes theft very seriously. What belongs to you belongs to you, even all the way down to your salvation. Number 9, you shall not testify falsely, that is lie, withhold or manipulate the truth against your neighbor or any person. So 9 is no lying. And this is, I told my youth kids, this is even omitting facts. And so if I say something to you and I only give you a certain amount of facts and it causes you to believe something that's incorrect, then I've lied to you. I've manipulated the truth. And that's a form of lying. And so that's why, the King James version of this says, do not bear false witness. So do not cause someone to be misled by what you say. It's the same reason why when we're under oath, we say, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. It's the idea that we're not going to lie by misleading anyone either. And the last one is, you shall not covet. That is, selfishly desire or attempt to acquire your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, his male servant, his female servant, or his ox or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So we'll put number 10 down here. No coveting. Now, coveting can be pushed too far. This is not talking about if I see a nice house, I can never say in my heart, I'd like to have a house like that. You should absolutely want to better yourself. And if you see some, like across the parking lot right now, I can see a really nice car. And I would love to have a car like that someday. And I would love to be like that person who's driving that car. But that's not coveting. That's just me wanting something better for myself in life. It becomes coveting when you say, no, I want his car, or I want his house. I want his wife. I don't just want a nice house. I want your house. I'm envious of what you have. I'm coveting what you have. And so, again, the second 5 rest on the 10th right here. And so the first 5 rest on number 5, onto your parents. The second 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rest on the 10th. Because if you don't have covetousness in your heart, if you're not coveting what someone else has, then you won't lie, you won't steal, you won't commit adultery, and you probably won't murder either. So if you can do these 2 things, if you can be satisfied with what you have, have an ambition to have more, but don't be trying to get what other people have, and honor your parents at the same time, you're going to do a good job keeping all 10 of these in a line. Okay. Now the people witnessed the thunder and flashes of lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the smoking mountains. And as they looked, the people were afraid, and they trembled and moved backwards and stood at a safe distance. They said to Moses, you speak to us and we will listen to you, but do not let God speak to us, for we will die. That's how intense this thunderous lightning fire was on top of the mountain, that they, standing at the base, were backing them up away from the mountain, thinking, okay, we can't hear from God anymore. It's too intense for us. But Moses seems to do a good job with it. Moses, why don't you just talk to him? Which I think had to have broken God's heart, that his own people didn't want to hear his voice. They rejected him outright. And so in verse 20, it says, Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, in order that your fear of him, that is profound reverence, will remain with you, so that you do not sin. So this is a show of force so that the people can understand, the gravity of sin, how serious God takes sin, how awesome and how fearsome God truly is. But the people stood at a safe distance, and Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. Then the Lord said to Moses, thus you shall say to the Israelites, you have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. You shall not make other gods to worship besides me, gods of silver, gods of gold. You shall not make these lifeless idols for yourselves. So again, he is emphasizing again, you're going to be tempted as you go into Canaan and into the land of Israel, where all these people are, to adopt their customs, to adopt their gods, adopt their idols. You like what they have, but don't do it. You keep me, just me. You shall make an altar of earth for me and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be recorded and remembered throughout the revelation of my divine nature, I will come to you and bless you. So wherever God's name is, God's coming to us to bless us. If you make an altar of stone for me, you shall not build it out of cut stones, for if you chisel on it, you will profane it. You shall not, last verse is very odd, nor shall you go up to my altar on steps, so that your nakedness will not be exposed on it. And so this is the idea that, they're all not wearing pants, they're wearing, cloaks. And so God's saying, hey, don't put steps on the altar either, because then people are just going to look up your cloak, and that's just going to mess up the whole situation. And it kind of seems like overly specific in some of these ways, but God is doing everything that he does to be different from the other gods around them. The other gods around them want beautifully ornate, chiseled, perfectly made by human hands altars that they sacrifice falsely on. Most of their religious practices and ceremonies and rituals and sacrifices have to do with super sexualized imagery and all this kind of stuff. And God's like, I don't want any of that. You're just going to build me an altar out of the stones that I made, how I made them. You're going to make it with 12 stones. You're going to make it with no steps. It's going to be humble, but it's going to be powerful. And so that's what we do. That's not what we do anymore. Jesus was the humble altar. But we don't have to make sacrifices like this anymore, because Jesus was the final sacrifice. The blood of lambs and goats was never enough to cover all of our sins. There had to be someone who paid the price for us, a human, and that was Jesus. And so this is the 10 Commandments. If you can honor your parents and live your life not coveting, I think you're going to be okay. And so thank you so much for listening to the Amplified Podcast. Of course, leave a review, maybe subscribe, or leave us 5 or 10 stars or whatever it is, and like and subscribe on YouTube. This helps the algorithm so that more people hear about us, and we'd love to hear from you. And so until next time, we'll see you again. See you next week.